Hello, welcome to episode 5 of Book Chat, a video series from the CH Booth Library. I'm Anne, and I'm here with some of my coworkers to talk about books. This is a special episode of Book Chat. We usually talk about new or recent reads, but today we're going to talk about some of the most popular books from the past decade, starting with the year 2011. So the most checked out book from 2011 was called A Turn in the Road by Debbie Macomber. Debbie Macomber is a popular author of contemporary romance novels that are, it could be described as gentle, upbeat, and inspirational. A Turn in the Road is part of the Blossom Street series. The books in this series take place in and around a knitting shop in downtown Seattle, and they bring together the lives of the women who meet there, and then they go off on their different stories as part of the series. In A Turn in the Road, 3 of the women go on a cross-country road trip to contemplate some changes that are happening in their lives. So try Debbie Macomber if you're looking for a heartwarming, optimistic read. And we have about 40 of her titles. Some of them are standalone, some of them are parts of series, and she's always very popular. And now...
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine, and I'm going to talk about 2012's most popular book, which was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. It actually came out in 2008, and it was massively popular in the early 2010s. It's a trilogy, and well, this is the first book in a trilogy, and it started a popular movie franchise. And it also is responsible for a huge interest in YA dystopian books. So if you haven't read it, it's about a girl named Katniss who lives in a dystopian future North America, where children from poor districts are sent to fight to the death in something called the Hunger Games to kind of entertain the wealthy elites in the capital. And it's like a very fast-paced, exciting read with a very distinct voice. So to me, it's really a must-read for teens and adults. So next up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lucy, and my book is strangely popular for 2013 because it is from, wait, I only see Margaret, sorry, because it's from 1922, and that is because a movie came out that year, and of course the book is The Great Gatsby. There's a reason it's been continuously taught in the schools, because it's pretty perfect, I have to say. It's very fresh, 100 years later. You know, the wealthy society people in this book are probably wilder than the people today. The story centers on Jay Gatsby, who is met by the narrator, Nick Carraway, a dispassionate, neutral kind of observer. Jay is trying to find the love that he lost, who is Daisy, who instead of marrying him, married someone else, and a very rich boor named Tom. Anyway, there's a lot of themes in this book, mostly about the wealthy. There are wonderful symbols, eyeglasses being one, and you know, the symbols of seeing things clearly. I would wholly recommend this book. I think I've read it about 5 times. Okay, next.
I lost track. Am I next? Sorry. Okay. Hi, my name's Amy, and I'm here to talk about not one book, but one author, James Patterson. It won't come as a surprise to most of you that James Patterson and his books show up on the list a lot. For this year, Unlucky 13 was the one that was at the top of the list, but of course there were a couple others that made it. And you can see that is just some of the James Patterson books that our library has. And some people don't like James Patterson, but he's very popular for a reason. For a while, 1 out of every 17 novels sold in the United States was one of his books. He's a great advocate for literacy. He started a young adult imprint just to encourage readers to read more. At the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, he donated $500,000 to independent booksellers to try to help them make it through the hardship that they were facing. So his success is important for basically every other author that works for his publishing company. Because the fact that James Patterson is a guaranteed moneymaker means that his publishing company can take a risk on newer authors, unestablished authors, and not worry about losing. If they lose a bunch of money there, that's fine. They're going to have a successful year because James Patterson came out with a couple books. So James Patterson is really a great man, a great author, and he does a lot for the publishing and the book selling community. And then for the next year, 2015? The most popular book was, The Martian by Andy Weir. And this is, I admit as a librarian, every so often I'm like, why is that book so popular? But I didn't think that once I read this book, I got why so many people were reading this book. It's a sci-fi novel, but it really reads like realistic fiction because it's basically set just a little bit in the future. It's very scientifically accurate. He did a lot of research. And this is actually a publishing success story as well. He first started just publishing some of these chapters on his blog. Then when people liked it, he made it a Kindle book, and it did so well that the big publishing houses came knocking and he sold it to them. And like I said, it's a great book. It really tells you about why astronauts are such amazing people. It's not just that you have to be smart and good at engineering. You have to be physically fit. You have to know a little bit about everything. People specialize, but you can't have someone on a space shuttle or a ship that can only do one thing. And that becomes very important because he's doing a mission walking on the surface of Mars, one of the first people to do so. A freak dust storm comes up, knocks out his communication equipment and also part of his life sensor. His crewmates have to leave because otherwise the ship is going to get destroyed. And they leave him behind because they think he's dead, but he's not. And now he's alone on the surface of Mars, and he has to try to figure out how to let them know he's alive and also how to survive. And if you read The Martian, you then might want to come and get this book out called One Potato, Two Potato, A Potato Cookbook, which you will understand if you read the book.
Very funny, Amy. Okay, hi, I'm Margaret. I work at the Circ desk at the library, and I'm going to cover the most popular reads for 2016 and 2017. 2016's most read book, one of the most read books, was Me Before You, Jojo Moyes. Jojo Moyes is an English journalist and since 2002 a romance novelist and screenwriter, one of only a few authors to have ever won the Romantic Novel of the Year more than once. This book, although I've read so many books between then and now, I do remember the strong emotional connection I felt to the two characters. And those two main characters are Louisa, a girl in her 20s from a hard-working London suburb, working class, blue-collar family. She financially supports her parents. She has one sibling. They are very close-knit. A grandparent lives with them. Heartwarming family. And the other main character is Will, a young, successful, wealthy thrill seeker from a privileged family by contrast, who has been in a horrific accident that's left him paralyzed. And there is a look into his family as well because his parents need to struggle with the issue of whether to let him to assist him in ending his own life. The main themes of this book are selflessness, how much selflessness you can have in loving someone, and I think responsibility to family. There are a lot of family themes in this book. It's a really heart-wrenching story of Louisa, who finds herself in the predicament of having to convince Will, who is in her nursing care, that there is a future and something to live for, while also trying to hide the fact that she has fallen in love with him. It is very sad, but surprisingly, Jojo Moyes works humor into even the most serious themes in her books. I think she's an excellent writer. And this book has a great ending and has gone on to not one, but 2 sequels. That was 2016, Me Before You. The next book, very different, for 2017, was A Man Called, how you like to say it, many people say Ove. I think it's pronounced Uwe. Having married a Norwegian, they'd say Uwe. Uwe lives in Sweden. This book is by Fredrik Backman. Uwe is a very grumpy curmudgeon main character, 59-year-old widower who really lashes out at neighbors and most anyone that he meets when they violate his personal space, his personal rules, at just pretty much how everything in the neighborhood should be running. It opens up a few months after his wife has passed away, and he is attempting to take his own life. Although this sounds very sad, this book quickly turns quirky and funny as his neighbors repeatedly interrupt his plans to commit suicide in some very funny ways. They are charming characters, the neighbors, along with young children in the neighborhood who are very fascinated by him, although he tries to put them off as much as he can. This book is a wonderful lesson in taking a deeper look at a person that you may have prejudged, and also trying to remember that many people who are very angry on the outside have a lot going on the inside. And also that the power of kindness can go a long way to a lonely, hurting person. Good thing to remember these days. So that was it. Me Before You, 2016, and A Man Called Uwe, 2017.
Okay, great. So the most popular book of 2018 here at the library was Lilac Girls. The author of Lilac Girls uses 3 narrators based on actual people whose lives converged around the Ravensbrück concentration camp during World War II. This was a very popular subset of historical fiction, probably throughout this whole decade of books set in World War II. And this book has strong female characters with rich historical details, and it tells a tale of redemption and hope from the 3 characters, and it was popular over multiple years, and likely because there's a local connection to the book. One of the characters, Carolyn Faraday, in the book is associated with a historical home right here in Connecticut called the Bellamy Faraday House, and that's in Bethlehem. And it became a popular destination for local book clubs to go there and see the house that one of the characters is associated with. The author has since written another book. The name escapes me right now. I'm sorry. Something with Lost Roses, it's called. Yeah. And that just came out last year, also popular. So if you are interested in historical fiction, women's stories from World War II, this would be a good choice for you. And now, the very last full year of the decade, 2019, Julie's going to talk about that.
Hello, I'm Julie, and the most popular book for 2019 was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And the main character is Kaya, and the book opens when she's 6 years old and her mother abandons her. And soon after, her 4 older siblings leave as well, which leaves her alone with her drunk, abusive father. And he is sometimes there and sometimes not, but eventually doesn't come back. And so she's left on her own. It's set in a coastal community in North Carolina, and she lives in a very, poor neighborhood. She's right by the marsh, so she's her family doesn't come from any money, and she's left to survive on her own. She doesn't go to school. She makes it a mission to hide from the truancy officers and the law and everyone in town. but she lives on her own, and the author does a really good job of describing the nature of the marsh and the wildlife in the marsh. It's really kind of captivating as you go through the story. And friends that Kaya ends up having are these wildlife. But then she gets some other relationships in high school, or when she's a teenager, I'm sorry. She meets a boy, Tate, who's the son of a shrimper, and he teaches her how to read. And they end up having sort of a romance until he goes off to college. And I think she kind of feels that abandonment again because she's alone. She does meet another boy from town and has a relationship. And she's eventually accused of murdering this boy. He's found dead in the marsh. And so then there's a trial that ensues, and it's all about, her couple relationships and this trial and the accusation that she murdered Chase. The other people that she is involved with are my favorite characters in the book, Jumpin' and his wife, Mabel. Jumpin' owns a bait shop that's like halfway between the marsh and the small town. And they're just super endearing characters to get to know. And again, the author does a really good job at developing the characters. So you either kind of love them or hate them, but you really get to know them. I should say it was also, this is in the 50s and 60s that it takes place. So it's got like a historical feel and the touch of like segregation in the town. So I can't tell you how it ends, but there is a twist, and, it's exciting, the trial, and you kind of think in your head, did she do it? Did she not do it? Who did do it? Who killed this boy Chase? So you'll have to read and find out.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And thank you guys for watching. And check the link that we post with this video. We'll have all the links for all these books. They're all available at the library, in some cases, multiple copies. And tune in next time when we go back to our usual format of talking about some more recent books that we liked, and also look for an accounting of the most popular books from the year 2020. No doubt there will be some James Patterson titles on there too. Okay. Goodbye.